Once again, I'm Jay Rosen, and we're talking about snow and ice activities within TDOT maintenance. And this next segment, we're going to talk about salt spreaders. We're going to move from the front of the truck to the back of the truck. But there's one thing I wanted to mention before we get that going that can hopefully keep you from being too frustrated, and that is your controls up in your cab. It's important. If you're new to this, once you get your truck going, you've done your pre-trip and all, that you have your PTO turned on and it's switched to the right way. And in your center console, somewhere there'll be a switch for your PTO. On this one, it's on the side, and so you'll turn it on, and your PTO is what's on the front, and that's what sends the power to your hydraulic system. But the main thing I wanted to show you was, you need to make sure that you turn your diverter valve on to where it sends fluid to your spreader. So you need to, if you want to spread salt, you got to make sure you do that. Otherwise, you're gonna frustrate yourself when you don't have that on. So now we're going to go back to the back of the truck and talk about our spreaders. So here we have our tailgate spreader. This is typically what we have used in the past, and this operates on the fact that the salt comes out of the truck bed in the back, conventional style, like you would empty any material. You as the driver would have your tailgate unlatched, and salt would come out the back, down your tail fin, and into the spreader. The spreader right now is down where you could do anything else you wanted to with it. But if you were to need to do salt, you'd simply lift up this panel here, and you would lock it in a horizontal position as so. Your salt falls against this, goes down in the auger, and comes out your spreader. So y'all can see what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and open this all the way to show the parts. Again, operating, you would have this up in the vertical, but in the back of your spreader you have your auger here. This is turning. The switch I mentioned earlier, you turn in, the salt is laying down here, and it's feeding it in this direction, so that then it falls through the bottom, lands on your spreader. Just wanted to touch on one thing about your spreader here. As it's spinning, it's throwing your salt out. And if you happen to have done this before, you can crank that thing up and throw that salt a long way, or you can just have it turn it a little bit and throw a nice little cone out. Now that we have the ground speed controllers, ideally we want a nice uniform cone. You want to be throwing a 3, 4, 5 foot diameter cone. You don't want to be slinging that salt all the way out. If it's hitting the guardrail, if it's hitting the grass, your salt's not doing any good. So that's why we went to the ground speed controllers. Leave it set the way it's supposed to be. The salt lands on the road where it's supposed to be and works effectively. It's important to note, if you need to do any maintenance, if you need to unclog something, we can't emphasize enough, make sure that the safest thing is your truck's off. If you can't turn the truck off for some reason, make sure your PTO is disengaged. If you can't make sure that is disengaged, or you don't know, unplug your hoses. It's better to waste a little fluid on the ground than it is to go down here and mess with this spinner, and it's spinning and really mess up your whole day. It's happened, it's gonna happen. Take all the necessary precautions you can to make sure that thing's not working if it gets hung up. So I can't emphasize that enough. That goes for the auger as well. If you'll look down in here, oftentimes there might be a big rock or something, a big chunk of salt that would come down in here and get hung, and you're not throwing salt out, and the tendency would be come back and beat on that with a hammer or whatever. Make sure your hydraulic system's off. If you can, just turn the truck off. It's a whole lot safer that way, and because this can really hurt you. In talking about cleaning out your auger, you also have this bottom panel here with some spring-loaded pins that you can drop, and you can lower this panel, and you can see the bottom of your auger, and this is so that you can clean it out, grease it, maintain it, check it, but this is another way also to clean your auger out. And as long as we're talking about the auger, it is controlled by the motor over here. You need to make sure you keep it lubed. Obviously this one hasn't had a lot done with it, but when you're doing your pre-trip, check it out. Check your hoses. Make sure you ain't got no leaks or nothing. Lube this thing up. There's a grease fitting right here. You can grease the inside, but do some maintenance to it. Your spinner motor has grease fittings on it too. Wherever it should be greased, we need to keep them greased as much as we can. Take care of your equipment will take care of you. One last thing about your truck and your tailgate, you can use these chains on here to help you. When you've got your load of salt, have your truck bed chain with some whatever slack that you're comfortable with. This should be enough. If not, let it out a little bit more, because when you unhitch the bottom of your tailgate's going to come open. This chain is going to stop it and allow your salt to come out to the back. As you dispense your salt, it's going to come down, and you're going to need to raise your bed up so that the gravity will cause the salt to continue to come down. Can't emphasize enough to be watchful of your clearances, of your vertical clearances when you're running with that bed up. It's happened that people have hit things. They've hit wires, they've hit bridges, they've hit signs. Know your truck, know your clearances, and know where you're driving, know your route, so that doesn't happen, because that can ruin your day as well.